We are in Palisades Park in Santa Monica. We're on the bluffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean here and Pacific Coast Highway. This is a really popular park for people to come to walk and jog, and it's a great area to just get outside and enjoy where you are, which is right on the coast. I came down here in 1986 to work at the local paper here. It was called the Santa Monica Outlook. And I was first a news reporter, then I went on to be a feature writer, and I had a column here, so I worked here for about 15 years. It was a great community to be a journalist in, because even though it's a relatively small city, there were just a lot of great stories, a lot of great personalities, a lot of great events, a lot of great local politics, so it was a great place to get a start as a journalist. Santa Monica is a progressive Southern California beach city, and it's a major tourist destination. It's also a predominantly white community, although there is a sizable Latino and Asian population here. But it makes most of it's probably it's most well known for being a place where people might come to enjoy the day and be a tourist. And also now it's a popular place for young tech startup companies. So right now we are just outside of downtown Santa Monica. We're at Santa Monica Boulevard and Ocean Avenue, and you can see behind me there are several restaurants, which gives you an idea of what the city is all about. It's all about tourism. There are 92,000 people who live in the city, but during any given day there'll be 250,000 people who come into the city to either work or mostly a lot of tourists. And tourism, they think, in this city adds about $2 billion a year into the economy. So this city is built on tourism, but it also, I think, leads to some of the problems that the city has to face, which was it becomes almost too popular. And how do you deal with all that? Because it's too many people sometimes, and a lot of residents feel as if they have to deal with that they want to put limits on, say, the number of restaurants or the number of hotels you can have in the city, or how high buildings can be. So that's an issue that the city is always wrestling with. Like, we want to be popular, we want to make the city nice, we don't make it too popular. Transportation is a big issue. When I first arrived here 30 years ago, there was traffic, but it wasn't really bad traffic. And now it's become almost gridlock when the morning rush hour, when people coming into the city to work, and then late in the afternoon when people going west to east to either get home or to go somewhere else. You just sort of plan your day around it. You know that if you're in Santa Monica and it's late afternoon, don't try and go anywhere east, because you're going to sit in traffic for a really long time. So I think traffic's a big problem. Congestion with so many people here. So those are I think really the big issues. For a long time, the local politics here were always about rent control. Rent control started in 1979. There was a political organization that was in support of that, and they really controlled and ran the city for ever since rent control went in. And more recently, the issue has to do with, I think, issues of traffic, issues of congestion, and issues of development. LA City is such a sprawling metropolitan area that it has all kinds of problems. When you look at, it has definitely much more serious crime than Santa Monica has. It has issues with funding for schools, just, I think, infrastructure and all kinds of issues, where I don't think Santa Monica really has to face those kinds of things because it's a much smaller area. It's a more affluent community. They do get that influx of tourist dollars, so they do have money when issues need funding. They have the money to do that, and they can do more kind of eccentric types of city issues. So one of them is this well-being index, which they started 3 years ago, where they actually went out to measure the happiness of the citizens. I can't see LA undertaking something like that. They just have too many other pressing problems to deal with. But Santa Monica has the time to kind of look at that. So they're looking at not only issues like healthcare. Do you have access to healthcare? Do you have access to education and things like that, or do you feel okay about your housing? But issues of do you feel lonely, or do you feel stressed? So they're going to look at this index, and they're going to use it really to guide them into how they make city policy for the coming years. The culture of Santa Monica has always been, the city has a very progressive reputation. But also, I think there is a element in the community that's a little more conservative. For instance, when rent control was going strong here, there were people, the newspaper I worked at, we would get letters all the time from people complaining about rent control if they were a landlord, because it was the city telling them what they could do with their own property. So they referred to it as the People's Republic of Santa Monica. So it had that reputation going on. But I don't think people who really are behind things that happen in the city really care so much about that. They're just going to go ahead and do the issues that they want to do. They want to be at the forefront of a lot of things. They're at the forefront of environmental issues. They want to be carbon neutral by the mid-century, so they're working on things like that. So yeah, it's very progressive. Behind me, this is, if you look further up north, we're looking north, you can see the community of Malibu, which is a really much more exclusive community where a lot of people from the entertainment industry are going to be. Much different vibe than Santa Monica. This is also the Pacific Coast Highway, which you can see. That's a great roadway to go take a great road trip up the coast of California. And then behind me is the beach, which was such a key part of what Santa Monica is all about. It doesn't look busy right now, but in the summer it's just filled with people. And also the bike path, which is, if you can see that, a lot of people come down and either jog or ride their bikes. So it really, Santa Monica is a community where if you really want to be outdoors and you like getting exercise, this is a great place to be because the weather is always mild like this, and there's so many great opportunities to get out and do things. It kind of encourages you to get out. And since we're talking about writers as well, I think it's a great place to be a creative person and even be a writer, because if you're a writer, and I know when I'm writing, and there are times when I get stuck, and so you want to go out and take a walk. Well, I'll come down here and take a walk along the beach or along this park here, and then maybe for an hour or so, and then you go back, and all of a sudden your head's clear and you're thinking much more creatively. I think if people have misconceptions about the city, they might think about it being almost like too liberal, or like kind of too crazy, or it's kind of too out there. But I think that, and that's the danger you run into. You have to be willing to take risks and be at the forefront of a lot of things. Like for instance, they banned smoking in a lot of public spaces well before other communities did that. And it seemed like kind of a radical idea, and it's also a very risky idea for a tourist town, because we get a lot of European tourists, a lot of tourists from around the world who aren't used to that kind of restriction on smoking. So it might make them want to stay away. But so I think that people might look at the city sometimes and think, why are they doing that? That's kind of crazy. But I think maybe they're just a little bit ahead of their time about some things, and I think eventually, and that's what a lot of people say about California too, in general, that we're maybe a little bit ahead. People look at California because whatever happens here is going to be happening in the rest of the country later on. So it may seem crazy initially, but it'll make trust us, it'll make more sense later on. The reason I like Santa Monica is because it's a great city to get outside and to do things and be active. There's a lot of great recreational opportunities, a lot of great restaurants. I like the farmers markets that they have. I go every week, and people take their shopping at the farmers markets very seriously here. But it's very important. It's a great resource to have fresh produce here on a regular basis. So I've always enjoyed even daily things, just going about and shopping in the city and just going around the city. There's a lot of interesting arts communities in the city. So there's a lot of interesting areas to walk around. So those are reasons I like it. I think you should come here because you've got the beach, you've got beautiful weather, you've got the pier, you can go to the 3rd Street Promenade. I don't know. I mean, I think that it really, there's something about psychologically, or it's a great stress reliever to be in this city when you're in the areas like down by the beach. So if you're feeling stressed, just come out here and look at the beach and see if that helps.